Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Conversations with. And I'm so happy to have as our guest today Lucia Baez-Geller, who was just elected our next school board. And I'm saying our because it's Miami-Dade County School Board. So, welcome, Lucia.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gladys. I'm so happy to be here today with you and all of your listeners.
So, can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I have been teaching for the past 15 years at Miami Beach Senior High. It's my passion, it's where my heart is at the schools, at the level, advocating for my students, advocating for my fellow teachers, making sure we have a respectful and healthy and safe working and learning environment. For the past 15 years, that's my background, that's where my heart is. And so with that passion, when the school board seat for District 3, which incorporates from Brickell, all the East Coast through Miami Beach, Sunny Isles, Aventura, and parts of North Miami Beach, it incorporates all that area. So very large swath of land. But when the opportunity came out to run, it just felt natural. It's what I've been doing. It's what I love to do, and advocate for our schools and our teachers and our kids. So it was a perfect fit, and I ran. And thanks to the generosity and the confidence that this community had in me, I have now the great pleasure, honor, privilege to represent the students of District 3 as their school board member. So I'm very, very happy and honored to be here.
So, welcome. Today's conversation is mental health. I know that this is a tough topic. With everything that's going on, kids have been going through a lot of changes and a lot of mental health issues, not only because of fear of the virus, because they are being scared. Like we as adults are scared. Imagine what they feel. Like some of the kids are feeling really, really scared that their parents might get it, that they might die. That is one thing. The other part is the struggle with education during this year, whether it's going to school, whether it's virtual. So there's a lot of different things that are going through this kid's mind. So first of all, what's your thought on this? What are the public schools in Dade County doing towards this? How are they going to address it?
Yes, so it's really a concerning time right now for our education system. And we see that the longer this pandemic goes on, the greater and the wider the learning losses are, the emotional traumas are. The longer that we continue like this, the worse the situation is going to be for our students. And we're really in a kind of in a crisis and an emergency situation. So on the one hand, we have the good news that the students that are in schools that are at half capacity, pretty much. The schools are open and about 50% of the students attend right now across our district on average, right? So they're functioning and it's working, and we're being successful at keeping our students physically safe, right?
But what about the other 50? Are they learning virtually?
They're learning virtually. Okay. So the ones that are there are physically safe, but everybody else, whether they're virtual or physical, we need to think about whether they are emotionally safe and whether they're cognitively safe, mentally safe. Their learning is actually happening, and it's hard that to grasp that. So as a district, we are committing in the next few months in the spring to not only identify, but also locate all of the students who are showing signs that they're struggling in whatever way that may be. And so that's really the first part, is the identification process. and they're going to be identified either by truancy, so they haven't been attending school through their attendance, or they're going to be identified through the ones that are attending. They're going to be identified through their reading and math scores, if there's going to be a huge difference or gap, or for students who are not testing age, or they don't have tests in their grade level, they're going to be identified through academic performance overall.
For example, Broward is now doing physical visits to the houses of the kids that are either not going to school or they're not logging in. So they're literally knocking on doors to all these kids to see what is happening. Are you guys doing the same thing? Physically visiting the people?
Absolutely, yes. They're going to start with the first step is to print out these reports that I'm telling you. And then at every school, so the school site, it's all a big effort. The school site's going to provide the data. They're going to print out the reports of their truant students, their students not doing well in tests and not doing well in school. And then it's going to be a concerted effort among the leaders at each school site to start with phone calls. We know that the numbers, the contact information is often outdated for our students. Then we're going to go into home visits, site visits.
Why is it that Broward is already doing that? And you guys?
I'm actually not familiar with Broward's policy or their plan or when they unveiled it, but we're going about it very kind of holistically in that we're going to address whatever level of intervention. So we're going to try and find out, is there going to be a need for a school-wide intervention? Is this something that the whole school is going to need intervention or issues with? Is it going to be small group interventions, like there's pockets or different patterns of students that we're seeing are going to need a specific type of help? Or is it going to be more individual? And I think having that sort of assessment, risk, and threat assessment right now, that has taken time. And making the plan. I don't know how far along they are with their plan. Ours is already comprehensive, it's made, and we're going full force. So okay. That's where we're at. We're receiving the info and we're starting the calls and then visits, and that's where we're starting in the diagnostic phase.
But wait, you're talking about the diagnostic phase based on their testing, math, English, attendance in school. What about mental health and performance? What about mental health, which is like completely an opposite thing and very hard to identify?
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing is, until we find these students, though, especially the truant ones, until we talk to them, until we talk to their parents, we don't know exactly what's the obstacles. Once we have that, we have an extremely well-rounded, competent group of professionals, social workers, doctors. We have nurses on site at every single school right now. That is something that was, from the beginning of the pandemic, there's been a nurse at every single school. Social workers, I'm sure I said that already. We have the wraparound services. In addition to that, we have programs already in place that help students with their socio-emotional coping skills, that help them with their reflection. We have, again, group, individual, and all school. Those are things that we have, but until we find the students and find out what the issue is, it's very hard to provide them the services. We can't teach or help the kids that we can't see. We have to see them first, and that's the idea.
No, I understand, but I'm worried now more a little bit, and I'm thinking that a lot of the parents are there about the mental part. I remember that when we were little and we didn't want to go to school, it was like the stomach ache. Oh, I have
Yeah.
a stomachache. I don't want to go to school. And I tell my kids, when my grandkids, and I go, okay, if it goes beyond 2 or 3 days, which 2 or 3 days can be okay, then find out if there's something going on in the school. But this
Yes.
is beyond. These kids are not sleeping. Their sleeping patterns are totally disrupted because of the pandemic. They're scared, and they're also scared to go, the ones that are going to school as well.
Yeah, and you know what we really need is to help the teachers also identify these. I mean, I know when, as a teacher, if I didn't see a student for 2 classes in a row, I was contacting the parent, I was calling home, or I was contacting the student and email, where are you? And sometimes they would be very honest with you and just say, I can't get out of bed. I really want to go to school, Miss Baez. I wasn't married yet. I really want to go to school, but I can't. I need help. And so that communication is the
That
first
is
step.
important.
Yeah, it's the first step is communicating. And often that one call is enough. Sometimes, on the other hand, they would say, you know what, I haven't been feeling myself. I'm fighting a lot with my mom, but you called me and you're right. I do want to go to college. I do have a lot going on. I need to go to school. And they would come. Then you follow up and you say, hey, that call we had, do you want to talk to somebody? And they'll tell you yes or no. Of course, I was a high school teacher. I'm dealing with populations that can advocate for themselves. So
Correct.
I think it's important that we're sure, as an educator, I could say that we're teaching the younger population teachers how to advocate for their students. And I know that they do. I'm sure that they do. I'm confident that they do. But always a little refresher, a little training of the signs of, emotional exhaustion, which I know they have. Also, right now with the district, they have the mental health crisis protocols. Every teacher is trained in that. But again, a lot of the tells or the signals that students give happen silently. We can't really see them. So we have to look for, like you're saying, the stomach ache, when little triggers that we can hear and identify that the students are reaching out for help. And we have many of our teachers are trained. Many of our educational leaders are aware of the issue. It's just a matter of having it there in front of you as a reminder or a refresher. And I think that's what this whole plan is about. And we plan to incorporate the entire community in this stepping up for our children plan for the spring and the summer, where we're going to be stepping up for them, going above and beyond, and making sure that we bring them back, not just physically to the school, but bring them back to their education, engage them, bring them back,
Yeah, because this is going to be the whole year. By the time we get vaccinated and the vaccine rolls out, it's not going to be before the school year ends.
Yeah.
So this
Yes.
year is basically a tryout.
Yeah. So we certainly want to be updating our protocols with our teachers, ensuring that they are reminded and aware. And then on the other side, like we said, identifying the students, having these reports done, and starting the visits, and then assessing each situation, because each situation is going to be absolutely different about what is the obstacle to the learning.
Do you have the staff
Yes.
ready to do all this and assessing every single case?
Absolutely. I mean,
here.
yeah, absolutely. This is going to be comprehensive across the whole district.
Let me ask you another question. What about the little kids in pre and kindergarten that are too little to express themselves because they really don't know, oh, I'm feeling down, I cannot get out of bed, like exactly what you described? This is a high schooler. Like, I
Right.
want to, but I can't.
Yeah.
So those children that are literally not able to express what they're feeling, and we all know that it's frustration, that is scared and they're going through a change. So what happens with those kids?
Well, first of all, it's really important that parents are able to pick up on these signals and that they're communicating these signals, or that they're investigating more with what children say. I'm not a child, I don't teach young children, I teach older children, but I can imagine that a loss of interest in things that the young children usually took pleasure in, I'm assuming that is something that a parent would need to look for. A change in personality, where, you know, maybe they're always sweet and they pet the dog and now they're kicking the dog, you
This is
know.
really important for those who are listening and those
Yes,
parents that really don't know what the signs are. So
absolutely.
these are some of the signs. Is there any part of your plan that it's geared towards teaching this to the parents?
So I'm not sure, and that's a really good question. I can follow up with you. I'm not sure to what degree the parents will be trained. I know the parents are going to be included in this whole process, in that any student that's going to be identified either by teachers or by the school leadership, the parents are going to get a letter. And the letter is going to require a signature of receipt and explaining whether it's, you know, academic or truancy, because they're not coming to school, whatever it is, explaining the effects that this could have on their child long term, and asking them to please opt in to the services that are available, whether they're going to be academic or socio-emotional. So they're going to have a say, and we're hoping that when parents obtain this letter, that they're going to be asking more questions and or providing information.
And do
So
you have the tools that you can give them in case they want to get involved?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to be a part of the process, 100%.
So let's talk about a little bit about the teachers. Because I
Yes.
went through, I'm literally overwhelmed as a grandparent. I was helping my grandkids, and if it was frustrating to me, I cannot even imagine what it is with the teachers and all the platforms and get to do things virtually, especially with the little kids. So it's
Yes.
not only about the teachers, but what about the parents that need to work and their kids are all alone in the house, unsupervised?
I know. So, well, those are two very, very different and serious issues. But for the teachers right now, they're just doing things that, you know, go above and beyond the call of duty. Most specifically, with the fact that 70% of our teachers are teaching in dual modality, meaning they're teaching the physical, they're kids that are present, and they're also teaching to the camera. And most of our, I would say all of our classrooms have been, they've been laced up with this technology for all the teachers that need it. But so they're doing twice the job. They are focusing on two different groups of people at the same time, addressing their questions, their needs. So needless to say, our teachers are tired. They're tired, they're exhausted, and it's obviously a very terrible situation, because we would need two complete different schools at every school to be able to perfectly do what we're doing, which is teaching kids at home and teaching kids at school. However, we don't have that. I mean, we don't have two of each at every school.
I
If we
understand.
did, yeah, if we did, it would be a lot easier. So our teachers, 70% of them are teaching two classes pretty much at a time, all day, every day. So we want to make sure at the very least that while they're there, that they have the resources they need to feel safe, over, of course, first of all, whether that's protective material, that they have resources, that their classrooms are being cleaned. And that's something that there's been a lot of talk about, and how often are classrooms being cleaned, and more confidence that their lives and their health are a priority. So I think that's the best thing that we can do for them. But at the same time, be compassionate. You know, parents, I know everybody is struggling. So be compassionate with the teachers. Understand that a lot of them are under very hard situations. They're experiencing a hardship.
With no extra pay, I may add.
With no extra pay. There's no extra pay. There's a lot of paperwork that is, you know, still needs to be tended to on top of teaching, especially for our special needs students. A lot of them require even extra attention on top of this. And so they're being very heavily pressured. So, you know, being compassionate with them, but also there's a lot of teachers that we realize could benefit from. There's some excellent teachers that could be sharing their best practices, so that could benefit from a community. Especially now, if you can imagine, you're teaching at home because either you have an exceptional case where you have an underlying condition, or someone in your family does, so you're teaching from home, which is an option that's going to continue through the rest of the school year, for anyone that was concerned about that. But you're teaching from home and you're all alone in a room. You don't have interaction with the students. That's what we live for, teachers. We live for that warmth, that interaction. So you're isolated. You're not getting that warmth that we get from students. So it's really not a great time. So we benefit from community right now. So ways that we can get teachers together, sharing their best practices, sharing their experiences, sharing their stories, and not just to vent, as we say, you know. Teachers, we would always get together. We want to vent about everything that's going wrong. But not just that, but to feel heard, like someone's taking the information and then doing something with it. But having a professional community right now, I think, is very important to be able to subsist what's coming. It's still, we still have a few more months.
6 more months.
Yeah, we're only halfway there.
Correct.
Yeah, so that would be really important, and something that I would say should be done is having professional learning communities where people can, you know, share practices, but also feel like they're not alone, I think is important for the teachers. And then, of course, keeping them safe and making sure that their principals are giving them, you know, fair treatment. You know, it's not going to be holding too many, you know, expectations on top of someone that's already overburdened is not going to help anybody, not the teacher or the students. You know, we want everyone to have a sense of well-being right now. So.
Are the teachers getting some kind of education to prevent, with everything that's going on with the pandemic? The suicide levels have increased exponentially, especially in teenagers. When we were growing up, we didn't have the social media and we didn't have anything of that. So on top of the social media, on top of the peer pressure, we have the pandemic.
Yeah.
So it's increasing it a lot. Are there any provisions to educate the teachers on suicide prevention?
Yes. Like I said, we do have the mental health crisis training, and that kind of goes through some of the different red flags that are not always verbal.
Correct.
That, you know, definitely, that again is changes in personality, changes in hygiene. I cannot tell you enough what a red flag changes in hygiene are for our teenagers. It's incredible. That is such an easy way to kind of see if you need to check in on somebody. But anyway, there's a lot more. They have that training, absolutely. But there's also, remember, let's not forget that the state mandates 5 hours of mental health. And that just started last year. between teachers and students, and it's done through the English language arts class. Now, there's still a lot of room for improvement. Last year was done, you know, very much as a pilot. This year, they're incorporating it more into the curriculum. So you have to kind of talk about the mental health issues, but within part of the language arts curriculum, something that you're reading, a conversation, more organic and fluid. But I would certainly want to see this mental health and socio-emotional learning not be like a separate thing, not something that we do for a month or once a month or once a week, just something that is part of our DNA as a school, that we're constantly checking in, getting feedback, and dealing with the very real situations that students are encountering. So there's still room to grow.
In one of my conversations, and I'm gonna tell you this story. You're a teacher, you're gonna relate to all this because we're running out of time. In one of my conversations during Suicide Month, I was having one of the conversations with a rabbi, and he told me a story that really resonated because it's an everyday thing that can happen. There was this little kid, he went to school, and at the end of the day, he took everything out from his log. He was walking out with the books and the baseball cap and a baseball mat and the whole thing, and everything fell because he was carrying too many things. And one of the boys saw him and said, "Let me help you." And he got down, picked up, and he said, "You have a lot of things. Where do you live?" And the boy said, "No, I live 2 blocks away." "Oh, I'll take them. I'll go with you and I'll take them." And during their walk home, they started talking. And the boy gets home, thank you, he invites him in to have something to drink. And they spent some time together and they became friends. One was this guy that played all sports, and the other, the kid that threw the books out, the books fell. He was not that sporty, he didn't have many friends. So they were from very two different groups, as you can say, social groups. But they became friends and they went to high school together. Then they got into the same college and they were still friends, even though their group of friends were very different. They became very close friends. And the day of the graduation from college, when this kid went to receive his diploma, he said, "I want to dedicate this diploma to my friend. Because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been here today." And then his friend goes, "What do you mean? You were the bright one. You were the one that helped me with the homework and everything." He said, "No, remember the day when all my books fell? Well, that day I went to school and I was emptying my locker because I had made up my choice that I was going to take my life. And I didn't want the pain of my parents to go and empty my locker. So I wanted it. I want to take everything home so that they wouldn't have to go through that. And when you went home with me, and when you talked about everything, and when you gave me this little light that I could have a friend, I said, maybe not tomorrow, maybe the next week." And then you were there and you kept me going. This is why I'm here today.
Yeah.
So that little thing, nobody would have known. Nobody would have known. And that's why I wanted to talk about this today, because mental health is really important. And I'm glad that you're aware of it. I'm glad that you're going to support this. I'm glad that you say that you want it as your DNA and not just part of something random. So I'm very happy to hear that.
Yes, and I want to just say that this culture of support for our students, it's very important. Doesn't matter if you have children or, you know, if there's children in your family, everybody knows somebody, their neighbor. It's important that we're all aware, not just parents, of how we can be helping our students to cope And we want as many groups out there, not just a school district, any group, any philanthropy, any community service group, anybody out there doing work with students to incorporate mental health. And we as a district, we're going to be communicating our strategies to help our students, and hopefully everybody can support the district in helping to work together, everybody involved, so that we can give our kids the world, because they deserve it.
Thank you. Thank you for being there. And we're here, whatever you need, you know, just reach out. I wish you all the best. I hope that you can come again and give us more updates. And with
Yes.
that, everybody, please stay safe. That's most important. Be well, stay safe, and till next Wednesday. Bye.
Thank you.